I'm with Kat Coiro, who is an executive producer and a director on She-Hulk. Congratulations on the show. How are you feeling today? You're talking to people about the show and kind of revealing it to a lot of people right now.
Well, thank you, Victor. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be talking about the show. I've spent so long keeping so many secrets and then even having conversations about a show that nobody's seen. So it's such a relief now that the cat's out of the bag.
Wow! Jeez, what the hell, man?
I enjoyed the junket that you guys had earlier today. It was great energy. It really gave me an insight into the creative energy that's a part of this show. She-Hulk isn't a character that everybody knows, including myself, truth be told. Can you take us into this character and why she's so important to the MCU?
Well, the comic books themselves have this really self-referential, meta, humorous bent to them. And that was always the goal, was to capture the essence of that character, including the fourth wall breaks, and then reimagine a series that really speaks to modern day life and is about a real fully developed woman who is walking through the world and then happens to have these superheroes powers thrust upon her. And what I love about the series is that we get to see small, intimate moments that we're not used to seeing in superhero stories. And so many of the films have kind of a ticking clock, plot-driven energy. And this is more meandering and allows for more small character development moments.
You come from a comedy series background. You've worked on lots of cool things, but you know, when you look at your resume and you see Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Always Sunny in Philadelphia, how do those shows and working on those shows compare to She-Hulk?
The big challenge in She-Hulk was always honoring the comedy that stems from the comic books and the scripts, but also creating something that has the visual impact that audiences are used to with a Marvel project. And so it was really breaking it down and saying, you know, where do we go big? And then where do I take that sitcom training and throw a few cameras on actors and let them play and let them get loose? Because the secret sauce to comedy is exploration and improvisation and playfulness. And so it was always riding that fine line between, you know, honoring the big and the action and the stunts, and then allowing for the small.
We hadn't really seen Tatiana Maslany in sort of a comedic role before. Was that something that you had to work on with her, or was it just a natural fit? Did she just sort of take to it and you were all happily surprised?
I was never surprised when I see an actress like Tatiana who is so engaged and who listens. I know that if you give her material that is funny, she will land that comedy. You know, another thing is that Jennifer Walters is a bit of the straight woman. And so it was really about populating the cast with outrageous, co-stars and people who could really bring the comedy, you know, that Jennifer's character is often working against.
One of the things that is obviously a charm of the show is the fact that Jennifer Walters She-Hulk breaks the fourth wall. Is that a power that She-Hulk has? Was Jennifer Walters as a character breaking the fourth wall before she became She-Hulk, or is that endemic?
Yeah, that is something that is not necessarily explicit in the series, but something that we talked about a lot. The idea that when she got these powers, which allows her to be tall and big and strong, she also gained a new sense of self-awareness and the idea that somebody else might be having a hand in her narrative. And there's a moment in the opening episode, the origin story, where she speaks to the camera for the first time and looks right into the lens, and then Bruce notices what she's doing and they have this amazing back and forth. And to me, that's the first moment that it ever happens, and it is in conjunction with her newfound powers.
You've set up a lot of interesting threads in the beginning of this series. A lot of also acknowledgement of the power and importance of the MCU cameos that are in this show. And one of my favorite phrases, and I searched on Twitter for this, I didn't see it, Twitter armor. And and sort of acknowledging that having all of these familiar faces is going to be a little bit of an armor from any sort of negativity that you might have around the show. Was that something that you're happy to bring out into the world, that expression?
Oh, I mean, I credit the writers with that. They're very involved in the Twitter sphere, which I am not. And so I love the fact that that's a part of the vocabulary of the show. And, one thing I love about the cameos is that sometimes cameos can feel gratuitous, but because we've created this world that exists where there is a superhuman law division and we live in a world where heroes exist, the possibilities are infinite for who could come through those doors.
What is the challenge when you're working with these Marvel properties? Like, how far can you go with the comedy, and how do you know when it's feeling like a good fit between that blend of action and sort of, I guess, our expectations around Marvel? And one of the best things about these MCU shows on Disney Plus is their experimentation. So that must have been kind of comforting for you to work in, but how do you find that balance?
One of the philosophies that, I operate by is that if you ground things in reality and you really connect to the human level and you give something a lot of heart and characters are well-rounded, then you can have a lot of license to go far with comedy. When comedy is disconnected from heart, I think then it can feel like it's gone too far and it becomes not funny anymore. But if you have characters that you're rooting for and that you love, I think there is no limit to how far you can go with comedy. And one of the interesting elements of this show was, as the existing MCU characters came into this show, like Emil Blonsky and Wong and Smart Hulk, they would often ask that question, am I going too far? Because it's such a new genre for them. And my answer was, no, you can't go too far if we're grounded in reality. Was
this the first project working within the Marvel Cinematic Universe for yourself?
Yes.
And how was that experience? Did you feel like you were walking into a family, or was there like a huge apparatus around the building of the show? Like, how was that for you?
At first, it felt like a daunting experience and walking into something that is so huge and global, but then you get involved in the project and in building the world. And I was so lucky to have been there, really from the beginning, building this world, that you see that it is just like anything else. It's about may the best idea win. It's about collaboration. It's about discovering what is the best avenue for this show. And I think Marvel, more than a lot of other companies, kind of allows for that exploration. And so it felt like a team where we knew we wanted to honor the comics, make the best show possible, and the only way to do that is putting a bunch of great minds together.
Well, Kat, it's a real privilege to meet you, and I can't wait to see how the show wraps up. Congratulations on the launch of She-Hulk.
Thank you. I love your background.
Oh,
it's so
thank you.
Inspiring. Bye.